The American Experience 1, Major Events of the Civil War. Chapter 1. The Civil War in the United States of America touched the lives of every American. Through the war-torn reconstruction of a nation, reviving its land, people, and regional economies, to the saber-rattling legislation of overtones of political leaders prior to the war, America would be ever changed, seeking to meld cultural, regional, and ethnic differences into this melting pot we call the United States of America. America's fight would not be at the hand of some foreign invader, nor would it be taken across the ocean to some foreign land. It was fought here on American soil, on farmers' lands, in communities, throughout cities, and in the countryside right out in the open, ravaging the lives of every American. Prosperous, beautiful, serene lands, rivers, mountains, and valleys are corrupted by dying men's screams, shouts, cannon blasts, rifle shots, smoke rising in the air, horses heard in the distance, and buglers sounding an advancing charge between two opposing armies. America is scarred by the effects of the Civil War, with soldiers' blood absorbing into our nation's soils. A nation divided against itself. As the country was moving closer to the brink of civil war, leaders in the North and the South were weary and distrusting of one another's actions, leading up to the first shot at Fort Sumter in 1861. Congress in the North instituted various legislation and territorial compromises based on partisan ideologies, hoping to quell and dispel the fear of Southern enslavers, believing Union legislators and abolition advocates were not working in their interests. America was moving west, and with each new state added to the Union, the question of slavery, abolition, and individual state sovereignty pressed on the nation. To overcome the nation's objection and pessimistic outlook, Northern lawmakers instituted a series of laws to calm the boiling animosities and the national distrust of Union politicians and those calling for an end to slavery. Legislative measures like the Missouri Compromise of 1820, the Wilmot Proviso, and the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854 failed to alleviate the growing divide, moving toward a national split between the states. Southern overtures mounted as calls for secession by rogue pro-slavery advocates dominated the landscape of the South. The final act that catapulted a nation into a civil war occurred in 1859 at Harper's Ferry, Virginia. John Brown raided the United States Weapons Armory and Munitions Site, intending to steal arms that could be given to enslaved Negroes to mount an insurrection against their Southern slaveholders in the South. John Brown professed to be guided by God as his self-appointed Moses to liberate enslaved people around the country. For Brown, the only way to abolish slavery was through violence. Local citizens and the military thwarted Brown's attempt. John Brown was tried by a military tribunal and sentenced execution by hanging. The victory of Abraham Lincoln in the 1860 presidential election triggered cries for disunion across the slaveholding South. South Carolina became the first state to secede from the Federal Union on December 20th, 1860. Another 10 states would follow over the next 6 months, severing ties with the Federal Union. Stood adamantly on two foundational principles concerning the Southern secession from the Union. One, he would commit troops if necessary to go to war to preserve the unity and the cohesiveness of one America. Furthermore, secondly, he believed that slavery should not be the dividing issue leading to the Civil War. For the President, the two must remain one. Lincoln said, "If I could save the Union without freeing any slaves," he wrote, "I would do it. And if I could save it by freeing all the slaves, I would do it. And if I could save it by freeing some and leaving others alone, I would also do that." For Lincoln placed a higher value on preserving the Union than on ending slavery. 3 years into the Bloody War, President Abraham Lincoln delivered the Emancipation Proclamation Decree on January 1st, 1863. The proclamation declared that all persons held as slaves within the rebellious states are and henceforth shall be freed. The economic costs of the Civil War between 1861 and 1865 were nearly $6 billion. It was the bloodiest war in American history, accounting for a 2% decline in the U.S. population and an estimated 620,000 men who lost their lives in the line of duty. The war continued for 2 more long years. On April 9, 1865, the war officially ended when Confederate General Robert E. Lee surrendered to Union General Ulysses S. Grant at Appomattox Courthouse in Virginia. Reconstruction, post-war reconciliation. The reconstruction of the United States followed the war. From 1865 to 1877, 12 long years to rebuild America's infrastructure, war-torn towns, and its people's lives through social, racial, and economic programs. The passage of the 13th Amendment prohibited slavery and servitude. Loopholes in the 13th Amendment came in the form of black codes adopted in the South, denying African Americans the same freedoms enjoyed by white Americans. However, for blacks, true freedom would be long in coming, as the letter of the law would have to catch up with the spirit of the enacted law. A faction within the Republican Party would hamper Lincoln's vision for a cohesive, unified America within his party, the Radical Republicans. These Republicans slowed the Reconstruction progress through legislation and imposed allegiance pledges from Southerners, further slowing a speedy unification between the North and South and restoring America as one to its greatness.